I've lost everything. My son, my identity, my love, but I'm still here. This is the topic today, and it's going to be a personal share. Now, I want to start with something that infuriates me a little bit, and that is humans are expected to be resilient and thrive in the aftermath of life-changing events. It's sold on every Instagram reel. It's sold in movies, overcoming challenges. And while that is the essence to some degree of the human experience, in many cases, there's not much grace given to people. There's almost this grand expectation that we are supposed to rise above it all. Now, I recognize that if we don't, we're going to wither away. But I'm going to share, as I said, a personal story. Now, I want you to think about, I said Instagram reels and movies. You know, when you think of movies like Cinderella or Star Wars, it has the hero's journey narrative. If you're not familiar with Joseph Campbell's work, I highly recommend checking it out. Talks about allegory and the journey we go through in life. And in Cinderella, she was beaten by her not beaten, but she was abused by her stepsisters and finds the prince. And the story of Star Wars, Luke Skywalker was beaten down, adopted, and rose above to become a Jedi Knight, the hero's journey. So today we're going to explore breakups. We're going to explore identity change. And I'm even going to share something to do with loss, because loss is something we all experience. We all experience it in different shapes and forms. And since my audience is predominantly women in midlife, which I say is after baby making years and before retirement, we're going to also touch upon the loss of the ending of a treasured relationship, particularly from the male point of view. Now, studies show women experience deep pain after a breakup, but also studies share that men carry the breakup much longer, and some men never recover. Now, that might sound like a contradiction because many men seek a new relationship right away, but some of those never truly fall in love with the new woman. I want to touch upon this for a moment, okay? Because men oftentimes go and fill that physical need to replace someone, whereas women take much longer to regain their sense of identity after the ending of a relationship. They tend to do more work, and men tend to go out and seek physical gratification. Now, that's not always the case. But ladies, for those that have experienced a man who's literally replaced you after the ending of a relationship, I will most likely say with some sense of certainty that he's not necessarily any happier in this new relationship. All right, why are you sharing this? Well, a woman posted a question to me today, which is the impetus of this video. And the question was, why should we believe you if you don't have a woman in your life? Why should we believe you if you don't have a woman in your life? In other words, why should we be listening to a relationship coach if you're not in a relationship? And here's my response. I'm still healing after significant loss. I'm on a journey of self-discovery. Okay, so I'm going to share a very powerful exercise for you in a moment, so please bear with me. But I think it's important that I share a little bit of my backstory. Roughly 20 years ago, I went through a major life-changing event. And there was like the big three. Does anyone remember the market crash of 2008? Well, I got wiped out financially in 2008. And at that same time, I was going through a divorce. So there was the ending or loss of my marriage. And at the same time, the company I worked for laid me off. And I was in a high income profession. So in the span of a couple years between 2006 and 2008, I literally had my identity obliterated. Now, I can't tell you how on an emotional level that is so devastating, particularly for men, because we identify ourselves with our professional life. We identify with the amount of money we have in the bank. If you're single in the dating marketplace, you've seen men who have suffered deeply. particularly those that were in the mortgage industry back in 2008 and 2009, the financial industry. And certainly during COVID, we saw a significant dismantling of our structure. And by the way, this is true for men and women. I'm not putting this singular on men. But in many cases, there's been the loss of our identity, and I suffered a deep loss in my identity. In fact, my self-worth was literally in the gutter, And because of that, I will be candid with you. It's why I started my business, because I recognized women were attracted to dysfunctional men, and I began coaching women on how to understand dysfunctional men, particularly men going through a divorce. And that's where my business was birthed. So in the ashes of my despair, I actually birthed what I'm doing right now with you today. But that wasn't the first loss I experienced. My next most significant loss was the loss of my 19-year-old son, Connor. There's a picture of him right there with his brother, Colin. He passed away in an accident over 6.5 years ago. And many would say a loss such as that would devastate a person. If you have a child, and I'm not asking you to imagine this, but for a moment, if you do have a child, ask yourself, how would it feel if you lost one or several of your children? I'll be candid with you. I've come across many women who have lost a child, or worse, I've come across several women who have lost 2 children. And that means their husbands lost them, or their ex-husbands lost them as well. That's a significant loss. And that could take years, if not decades, to recover from that. And so I'm sure, not that I don't pray that on you, but I'm sure you've lost loved ones. You've maybe lost a spouse. Maybe you lost a dear friend. It can affect us deeply in our hearts and make it very difficult to even get up in the morning. And then many of you know, who followed my channel, I fell in love 3 years ago with somebody. I was all in. I was in love. I wanted to marry this person. And I thought we had a good relationship, but it seems as though she had a different direction in her life. And I respect her choice. Because ladies, if a relationship isn't right for one person, it's not right for both people. And yet I was the collateral damage, emotionally speaking. And I can tell you, after the ending of the relationship, I've suffered deep pain and loss. See, loss isn't just about death, although in my case, I had the loss of a child. It was the loss of my identity. Certainly it was the loss of my child, and the loss or the ending of a significant relationship. It's loss of love. It's a loss of the dream. So why am I sharing all this with you? Well, I've been working to re-examine all these areas of my life, because guess what? As the title of this video said, I've lost everything: my son, my identity, my love, but I'm still here. Now, part of that is all based on the personal development, self-help, and spiritual work I've been doing for the last 2 decades. In fact, I wrote a book about it called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work. There's a link below to get a copy of my book. It outlines my 20-year journey, my hero's journey, to not let depression and loss take me over. I'll be candid with you. For those first 5 years after my identity crash, I was in deep depression. I went to bed wishing I didn't wake up. I did drugs and alcohol just to get through the day. Many of you can relate to that, or many of you have experienced friends who've gone through such an experience. Maybe you have a family member who has experienced deep depression. If you ever felt depressed, in a funk, for those watching, this is not a fun place to be. Please forgive me for that example, to say the word fun. And as I began this broadcast, we have Instagram reels and movies that tell you, oh, you're supposed to overcome loss and overcome adversity and overcome, because we are resilient beings. And yet this is not an easy task. And I'm still peeling the layers of loss and grief, even 20 years later. But as I shared with you, and my invitation for all you is to do the inner journey of personal development, self-help, spiritual work, and therapy. Because folks, if we don't start looking at the inward journey to find that love within ourselves, it's going to be problematic. It's one of the reasons why people go from relationship to relationship to relationship. And sadly, the dating marketplace is a marginalized version of connecting with people with this false sense of abundance. This false sense of abundance because of dating apps, and people are more miserable. And yet, online dating, as an example, is the number one place to meet people. And I believe, like a broken clock, it's right twice a day. I believe the inner journey of finding the relationship within yourself matters most. So coming back to the woman who asked the question, why should we believe you if you don't have a woman in your life? Well, it's because I'm looking to find the relationship within myself. So I shared in the beginning of this broadcast that I'm going to give you an exercise to help you. And I'm going to share my personal exercise that I believe is a cathartic experience to rise above the pain of loss. And it's called a grief letter exercise, a grief letter exercise. I shared this a few days ago in a previous video, but I'm actually going to today give you some of the tools so you can create this for yourself. It's called a grief letter exercise. Can someone write that in the chat box? Can someone write that in the comment section? And ideally, if someone would be willing to write it all out, but if you're, hey, it's 11:11. If you're watching this video, I want you to go back and rewind it a couple times to get the principles of this exercise. So first, I'm going to share with you my grief letter exercise, and then I'll give you the bullet points on how to create this on your own. So it starts off, dear grief. You and I, we go way back, longer than I care to admit. First, you showed up the day everything I built came crashing down. The high-rise office, the big paycheck, the illusion of control. I lost it all between 2005 and 2008. You took my pride, my identity, and every damn thing I thought made me valuable. I wasn't just broke, I was gutted. And nobody brought me casseroles for that kind of death. But you didn't stop there. You came back swinging when I lost my son, my boy. You didn't just knock the wind out of me. You buried me under the weight of grief so savage, I wasn't even sure I would ever claw my way back. You wrapped me around like smoke. There was no breathing through that. Still, somehow I lived. And just when I started to rebuild again, to let the light peek through the cracks, you showed up in her eyes. The woman I let in. The woman I believed in. I let myself feel safe again. I let myself hope. And then she left. So here you are again. You cling to everything I've loved and lost. And honestly, I hate you for it. You've been the ghost at every table, the ache behind every smile. But here's the truth. If you're still here, it means I'm still loving, still risking, still fucking trying. So stay, watch me, because I'm not done yet. I've buried old versions of myself a dozen times. I've been shattered, humbled, buried to the ground, and yet I still wake up. I choose hope, even when it tastes like ash. You may haunt me, grief, but you'll never have all of me. Jonathan. We've all suffered some loss in some way, shape, or form. If you've suffered a loss, please share it with everybody right now. Please share in the comments or in the chat some sort of loss you've experienced, because we've all experienced loss, and in many cases, multiple losses. Life is an experience of overcoming challenges over and over and over again, quite frankly. I know that people sell you on their happy lives on television and in movies, but the reality is you and I, some days don't even feel like getting up. Some days we go to bed wishing we didn't want to get up. And yet we persevere. So I invite you to do this grief letter exercise, and I want to give you some bullet points on how to do this. So I have my notes, bear with me. And it's already, Tatia says, I lost a younger sister. I lost my husband nearly 4 years ago from June. And by the way, loss isn't just death. Loss could be your identity. Loss could be a breakup, a treasured relationship. In fact, a treasured relationship can be gut-wrenchingly painful, and not to suggest that I compare it to the loss of my son. I will tell you it deeply, deeply hurt. Hurt is still hurt. Beacom says, I lost my husband. Lynn says, my relationship just ended. My heart is breaking. So I'm going to read you some of the things I want to impart upon you today. Why writing a letter to your grief will help you attract and sustain real love. Let me repeat that. Why writing a letter to your grief will help you attract and sustain love. Number one, you can't receive love if you're still embracing loss. That's where the grief letter comes in. And here's how this one raw exercise can open your heart. It clears emotional residue from your past. It clears emotional residue from your past. It helps you stop romanticizing the wrong people. This is particularly for love. It rewires your fear of vulnerability. It rewires your fear of vulnerability. It shifts you from victim to conscious. I call it from victim consciousness to victor consciousness. And I got to tell you, we all have a significant percentage of victim consciousness when we communicate, believe it or not. And I am so guilty of that. It helps you emotionally self-regulate, particularly when you're dating. It raises your emotional availability. You can't connect with someone on a deep level if you're emotionally constipated. I am guilty of that. And lastly, it reminds you of your capacity to love again. It reminds you of your capacity to love again. So I'll teach you the way to write your grief letter in a moment, but I want to touch upon this. If you're watching this and this resonates with you, do me a favor, just hit that like button and please share this video, because I want this to be spread to as many people as possible. I'm inviting everyone to do this today or this weekend or in your life in the next 30 days, to do this for every facet of your life where you've experienced loss. And is this a magic? Can this wave the magic wand and change everything? No, it's not going to do that. And yet it's a cathartic exercise. It's a cathartic exercise. And and I invite you to handwrite this, because when it's visceral in that sense, it has more healing associated with it. And by the way, whether you're a man or woman, I truly invite you to do this. So here's some of the elements, and there's 7 of them. It's called the Dear Grief Letter exercise, or the grief letter exercise. Dear grief, you showed up when ... Describe the first time grief appeared in your life. What did it take from you? In my case, what stands out most is when my identity was crushed, my divorce, and I lost all my money. That's when it showed up first in my life, in a very, ambulance sirens going off of me kind of way, in a way that I fell off the cliff. So describe, dear grief, you showed up when. So describe when. Number 2, you made me feel. You made me feel. Speak raw emotions, rage, numbness, despair, shame, loneliness, even relief. To speak to the raw emotions. You made me feel like this. Number 2, you returned when. Name all the moments you didn't realize you were grieving. Breakups, job loss, letting go of who you used to be. You returned when. Number 4, sometimes I hate you because. Let your anger be heard. You don't have to be graceful here. Let it all out. Scream at the top of your lungs. Grief fucking sucks. Or excuse me, loss fucking sucks. Breakups fucking suck. Losing a loved one fucking sucks. Get angry. It's okay to do that. We often are told to repress our emotions and feelings, and I'm encouraging you all to get out and express it. Number 5, but I also know this about you. What has grief taught you about love, about depth, about being a human? But I've also know this about you. What has it taught you? Number 6, here's what I want now, ... Describe what you want moving forward. Peace, love, closure, strength, hope. Let your voice rise again. Here's what I want from you now. And lastly, number 7. So if you're staying grief, ... End with a declaration of resilience, boundaries, or transformation. Grief doesn't get the last word. You do. If you're staying grief, by the way, folks, I didn't come up with this, okay? I've been working with a therapist. I've been working with a counselor. I didn't come up with this. I'm just sharing what I've learned I've just shared what I learned. That's what I do. I learn something and I share it. I learn something and I share it. I'm not the wizard here. I'm not even here to profess that I'm the expert. I'm just a person that is on a journey of self-discovery, of healing. And I just share the things I've learned. Some of them are right. Some of them are wrong. Not that there is anything as right or wrong, but I'm just sharing along the way. By the way, is this resonating with you? Is this sinking in? This was a gift from a client, very sweet of her. Is this sinking in? By the way, if it is sinking in, I'd like to hear your thoughts on everything I've just shared. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. If you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell as well. Also, if you want to connect with me directly, yes, I'm a dating and relationship coach. If you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. There's a link to follow me on Instagram to get the books I recommend, to get my dating vows, all in the show notes below. I invite you all to do this grief letter exercise and let go of the residue that might be blocking you from attracting a beautiful relationship for yourself. By the way, I want to thank Cynthia for saying, this is truly cathartic, Jonathan. Please post the steps for writing the letter. Let's see what else. Sadly, Melissa says, it made me feel like I will never find love again. I'm inviting you to do this exercise, Melissa, so you can find love again. I'm inviting that in. RN Lynn says, hopefully will resonate after this initial shock and pain. Paulina says, let go and find peace within yourself. I look at life as peeling an onion. It's not linear. It's not like this way. Life is like this. And letting go, I think it's about embracing everything and letting in the light of love instead of letting go of the pain. The pain is partly what defines you to some degree. It gives you strength. But I believe it's about letting in the light of love. Melissa says, I will definitely do this exercise. I'm so happy to hear that. So folks, it's time for Q&A. I'm going to do it again. It's time for Q&A. If you have a question, there's a little chat box in the corner. Write the word question, then post the question thereafter. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All the money's from the super sticker. There's a little $ in the chat box. All the money's from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's a picture of him right there with his brother, Colin. He's my son who I passed away 6.5 years ago, as I mentioned earlier. And as honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process Insight Institute, and we offer scholarships to coaching as well. And our goal today is $50. Also, if you want to join me live on the Love Seat, I'm posting a link right here. You can join me live. We can have a conversation about the grief exercise. So there's a link right there to join me on StreamYard. You can do this on your phone. Just do me a favor, put your phone in a stable place, and we can go from there. All right, let's see what kind of questions we have today. By the way, it looks like we have a bashful group. So please, I welcome conversation. Oh, here we go. Cynthia says, question, how did your grief process affect your most recent relationship? So that's a great question. So if we're talking about the ending of my most significant relationship, which was 1.5 years ago, and I did have a brief relationship recently, I'm going to share with you something that I've observed. I think when you have a treasured relationship that ends, oftentimes that residue doesn't get peeled off until you start dating someone new. And I'm not proud of what I'm about to share, but I would say that brief relationship stirred up a lot of my past. Now, I was radically transparent throughout the whole experience. She was aware of it, but I can say that just from my feelings, it stirred up a lot of stuff. You know, when you deeply care for someone, when you fall in love with someone and it doesn't work out, that is gut-wrenchingly painful. And I don't think we give enough attention to the amount of grief or loss people have experienced, even if it's a short-lived experience. I know some people that have only dated someone for 3 months, and that can be gut-wrenching as well. The minute you open your heart to someone, you expose yourself. The kimono is open. It's radically vulnerable to open yourself up to someone. And yet I don't believe in carrying walls in the dating process either. I don't think we should be blocking love. This is the risk we take. As a friend of mine once said, love is a risk. It's still the best game in town. And so, but what was most important for me, and I did my best to be in integrity by sharing all of these feelings and allowing the other person to make the choice. You know, I think there's a reason why some people have what's called transition relationships. They have a significant loss in their life. They have 1 or 2 transition relationships to open up again, because the next relationship after a significant ending can stir up a lot of stuff. This is true for men, and this is true for women as well. So Cynthia, great question. I appreciate that. And I will say this. It's, you know, the idea of when are we ready for a relationship? I think ultimately, and maybe this is just a projection on my part, but I think when 2 people are resonant with each other, somehow they find a way to make it work. When 2 people are in the same resonance, they find a way to make it work when they're in alignment with each other. And the reason why I bring this up is there was a woman who reached out to me after my son passed away. Turned out her son passed away, and she had just started dating someone. Imagine that you're a month into dating someone, you lose her child, but somehow through her grief, their relationship was built stronger. Sometimes the right person can hold the space when the other person isn't capable. I think Brene Brown talks about it even in her marriage. Sometimes she says, I've only got 25% to give, and her husband says, I'll take up the other 75%. This is tricky stuff. This is not, romantic love is not for the faint of heart. And sometimes, like a broken clock, it works out right for some people. Anyways, Cynthia, thanks for sharing that. Angelica says, great words for help coming back to real self with open feelings. Good luck for you, dear Jonathan. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. By the way, you know, I'm offering this exercise as tools because, listen, we have to, on some level, I'm not a dating and relationship coach. I'm really a life coach. And what I mean to say is I have been beaten up so many times, and yet I still get up. I wake up every morning with hope that something special, fantastic will enter into my life, whether it's a relationship, whether it's making a difference in a person's life. I invite you to wake up with that same sense of vigor and energy. And I will tell you that in my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? I put a list of, it says the recommended reading, studies, teachers, and workshops. I put together a list of what I've done over the years, over the last 20 years, to be in the space I'm in today. I'm not saying it's the end all be all. I'm just inviting you all to do that inner work of personal development, self-help, spiritual work, and therapy. All right. By the way, if you have a question, write the word question, then post the question thereafter. I need some feedback if we're going to keep this going today. Deanna says, I lost my son after he fell asleep at the wheel. 7 years later on his birthday, I lost my husband of 40 years to leukemia. These are just two of 15 tragic losses. Oh my God. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug, if that's okay. Folks, I suspect if you wrote a list of all the pain and suffering you've had, you've endured a lot. I am so tired of the Instagram world professing how great their life is, flying on jets. You know, it pisses me off when I see a dating profile, they happen to be in a private jet, as if there's some sort of glory to that. In many cases, people operate from a superficial level, and I'm here to encourage a heart-centered way of approaching life. In fact, from a heart-centered way to approach love, I invite you all to read If the Buddha Dated. If the Buddha Dated. This is a deep dive into dating outside of the bullshit gender rhetoric and says, how can we connect at a heart-centered level? I invite that all for you. By the way, Karen just gave us a $20 super sticker. Thank you for the love. I appreciate that. Wow, we appreciate the love. Thank you so much. So as I begin, and by the way, I share from my personal experience, not to say, look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm sharing from a personal experience because I want to make a difference in people's lives. And sometimes it's just easier to share from my own experiences. In fact, in a few weeks, I'm going to have a friend of mine on the channel who lost her husband almost 11 years ago, and how she's been on a journey of self-love. We all are on a journey to love ourselves. What is self-love? Self-love is self-worth, self-confidence, self-esteem, self-discipline, self-resilience, self-confidence. But most importantly, you know what self-love is? We all have an inner 6-year-old inside of us. We have an inner 6-year-old inside of us that gets scared through all these experiences. I can't begin to tell you how scared I was after my identity was crushed. Here I was a 40-year-old man, and I was so scared, and I felt so alone. How many of you feel that way? Feel scared and alone? And we all have a little 6-year-old inside of us. And self-love isn't some magic wave a wand, do this or that. It's learning how to nurture that little 6-year-old inside of us that's scared. And when it comes to love, we are all it's about finding that little teenager inside of us. Do you remember your first love, that first time you experienced a connection with another human being? It's tapping into those feelings. That's another form of self-love. Relationships are not for the faint of heart, folks. They are messy. They are painful in many ways. We have this fantasy. In fact, dating is all about being entertained and romance, and it's about physical attraction. So it hyper focuses on all the dopamine hits instead of the real value of a relationship is somebody sitting there beside you while you're going through chemotherapy and they're wiping the vomit on your face. To me, that is the essence of true love, is being there for somebody. It's about somebody else's needs matter as much as your own needs. You care about their needs as much as your own. That's the essence of love. And we have this fantasy way of approaching it, or worse, we have an unhealthy way through insecure attachment that we find ourselves in. believing that it's love. If you're not familiar with the book, Wired for Love by Dr. Stan Tatkin, I highly recommend reading this. How to understand your partner's brain and attachment style can help you diffuse conflict and build a secure relationship. We are oftentimes operating from this insecure place of love and then wondering why we are miserable inside. It's about taking empowerment in your life. That's my invitation for all of you. Is this sinking in? Wait, is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Let me know. June says, I love your transparency and authenticity. Thank you so much, June. I appreciate that. Jen, History, Fuzz, Admin says, I'm assuming she meant I lost the love of my life. And I find myself unable to have a heart-centered connection. The one time I did, it scared me so bad because it snuck up on me. And when I realized it, I panicked. I'm going to say you're in good company. The minute we open our heart to someone, it's scary to be naked and exposed to another human being. You know, we date in such a superficial way. Instead of building real connections with people, we have this accelerated learning curve that's needed because in many cases, we don't have the trust built as the foundation. And we do this rapid pace of trust through text messaging. How's your day going? Did you have a good day? I hope you had a good day. Tell me about your day. Oh, and then it's flirting. Oh, you look so hot. You look so sexy. You look so, let's get on phone sex and blah, 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 blah. And you live 4,000 miles or 3,000 miles away. Let's keep talking incessantly for years. And then we finally meet and there's no attraction. I'm sorry. I'm being a little tongue in cheek here. Hey, folks. If you have something to share, post a comment. I need some love here. Post a comment below. Ask a question if you want this conversation to keep going. You know, one of my catharsis, by the way, doing this brings me so much joy. It really does bring me joy. I think, and to some degree, talking with you all and inviting in the things I've learned and getting those text messages, you made a difference in my life, you made a difference in my life, brings me a lot of joy. By the way, if you'd like to join me live right now, I just posted a link. You can join the Love Seat. We can have a conversation right now, okay? Karen says, I've been on my own for 10 years. This isn't easy. You know, I have a child. I have one left. I have a sister and a brother. And I get to see them on occasion, which is nice. I love my siblings, but I don't necessarily like hanging out with them that long. And my son I love, but he's off doing his own thing. For like you, Karen, I understand what it feels like to be on my own. And life is hard by ourselves. This is why some people get roommates. Some people live in communities. I would love to have lived during the time of Ram Dass and Timothy Leary in upstate New York, doing psychedelics to explore the infinite possibilities of the universe. That's kind of what I'm jonesing for. But anyway, because I wouldn't be alone, I'd be able to play with people. Anyways, if you have a question, write the word question, then post the question thereafter. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat, just like Karen did. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Aslay. So since I'm waiting for questions to pop up or someone to join the hot seat, I want to share with you a post I did on Facebook or Instagram. You might find this interesting. Okay. Oh, here we go. All right, here we go. Now people are popping in. Oh, Lisa, I want you to join the Love Seat. Would love to have you on, Lisa. I know you tried last time. I just posted the link, okay? June says, this is why I'm looking for love again, to love and to be loved, someone to do life with, exactly, to be a witness in our life. Jen says, I've been on my own for a long time too. I enjoy my alone time, but having a companion would be great. I actually do love my alone time as well. It's actually kind of fun. Jen says, sometimes I feel dead inside. I can relate to that. Oh my God, I can totally relate to that. Melissa says, I totally agree with you. Wow, it's a rough ride. Ain't that the truth? We have this fantasy how love should be. Oh, Micah says, Jonathan, I think we do not put enough emphasis on how much work is needed and even necessary on dealing with loss of youth. When we get to midlife, when ED, menopause, these truly affect us. Absolutely. Our body begins to change as we age. And there's no doubt. Lisa, I want you to join the Love Seat. Here's the link. Join me live. It'd be fun to have you on. I know you tried last time. And see what we got here. Oh, so I was going to read to you a post I did. So recently I had a counselor offer an explanation as to why I sometimes say can when I mean cannot, and why my words take the scenic route through my brain before landing in your ears. Turns out I've got a cocktail of executive function quirks, hello ADD, and language processing issues, dysphasia. Nice to meet you. Translation, my brain knows what it wants to say, but sometimes the wrong words slip out without me even noticing. It's like my mouth hits send before proofreading, and yes, it's a cause for a few awkward moments, especially in emotionally charged conversations. I'm not trying to be confusing or misleading. I genuinely don't realize the message got scrambled. Also, real talk, when I get nervous or scared, I default to humor, not the cute kind, the sarcastic, cut you with a smile kind. It's not always intentional, but it is still a deflection. And yeah, it's hurt people I care about. That's the hard to admit. This diagnosis has been eye-opening, and I'm learning to slow down with intention. I have some compassion for my wiring. If you've ever felt like your words betrayed your brain or people constantly interrupting you, you're not alone. There's a reason for it. And sometimes the reason is neurological, not personal. Let's just say my heart is in the right place, even when the syntax or sarcasm sometimes miss the mark. Can anyone relate? I just thought I'd share that with everyone. By the way, looks like we have Lisa in the house. We're going to put you on in just a second. Okay. Lisa's in the house. Here we go. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you. I made it.
Yeah. What you got for me?
So, I am wondering, I feel like I've kind of reverted from an anxious attachment to a possible dismissive avoidant. And
you've become, wait, let me be clear. You've switched from an anxious to an avoidant. Is that what?
Yes, I kind of feel like I'm moving in that direction.
Okay.
Just because I've experienced so much hurt and loss over the last 5 years. Just a little background. My father passed away, and I had a major medical issue going on. I had to go into the hospital for a couple of weeks, and then I had to go into rehab and kind of rebuild my life again, learn to walk, and my motor functions were all screwed up. I had a syndrome. It's called Guillain-Barré syndrome that I struggled with.
Okay.
And then I was also going through a divorce at the same time of 20 years.
Okay.
And
how long ago, Lisa, how long ago was this again?
this was about 5 years ago.
Okay. Okay. Just to get some context. Okay.
So everything kind of like, I mean, in that short of time, there was huge loss for me. And I had started my road to recovery after my divorce, and I was feeling good physically. And I had met somebody that
Okay.
I started dating, and we were together for about 1.5 years. And he was very dismissive, avoidant. Now, I
Okay.
had come from my marriage, who he was the same way. My husband was the same way.
Now, just
And
so I'm clear, and can you describe what that means to you or what it looked like in this relationship that he was dismissive, avoidant? Could you?
yes. So when I wanted to be close to him or have conversation or engage in an emotional conversation with them, they would shut me down. They would just pull back, feel uncomfortable, wouldn't have time. Um, they would just dismiss what I was trying to express to them.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so that's how it felt. Like I was never validated. My feelings were never validated. I would reach out and ask, hey, I need this from you. I need more love and affection, or I need, some more emotional connection, more time, more quality time or whatnot. And then they could never fulfill that. And I
And just
always
out of
was,
curiosity, how far apart did the two of you live?
we were within 5 minutes. He was
Okay.
in the,
So,
he was close.
and did you get together on a regular basis?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I just want to understand, because if you'd told me this was a 3,000-mile relationship and you saw each other once a year, there's
No.
different elements. Okay.
No,
Okay.
we were with each other a lot.
Okay.
His love language was acts of service, which was great.
Okay.
And he would help me and that sort of thing. And then, we would spend a lot of time together doing activities and such. So
Why did the relationship end?
I don't know. He never gave me that answer.
Okay.
I think that he
Do me a favor.
sorry.
Try to put your phone down so it just stays there. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have it on something propped up and it dropped.
Okay.
But he never expressed why he ended the relationship. And it was very hurtful for me because
Yeah.
I didn't know why. And all of a sudden he's in my life and shabam, he's gone.
Okay.
So
And for a moment, try to describe a couple feelings over that. Not thoughts, feelings.
sadness,
Okay.
pain,
Yeah.
a lot of pain,
Okay.
a lot of hurt.
Did you two have a conscious uncoupling? Was it a text message? How did it actually
it
end?
was a text message breakup. That was
Wow. And you
that
were
was the
together
other
for over a year?
yeah, 1.5 years.
Year and a
Yeah.
half. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That was fucked up. I'm sorry. That was.
No, that's pretty fucked up, especially if
Yeah.
you live 5 minutes away. If it was plane ride away, that's a different story.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm not laughing and I see you laughing, but it's like, that is pretty fucked up. So, I don't think you want to unpack that, but if you ever did want to unpack that, I can give you some insight as to why that most likely happened from his vantage point. One of the things I do for clients, I call it get inside a guy's head, where I take my head, I put it on his body, and I do the talking for you based on what he was experiencing. So,
okay.
and you fill out a questionnaire for that.
Okay. Thank you.
If you ever want to unpack that. Okay. So now so we started this conversation with, I used to be anxious. I think I'm avoidant. That was kind of how this got started, right?
Yes.
So were you anxious in your marriage and with this relationship?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I wasn't getting my needs met. I would keep asking my husband and my boyfriend for to meet me where I was, would reach out and say, I am feeling disconnected from you. I would like to be closer and share more emotional connection through, speaking to each other about our feelings and such.
Yeah.
And it just, it was talking to a wall. I mean,
Yeah.
they just could not meet me there. And I was asking the wrong person, obviously, the entire time. So I guess my question for you is, so it's been a number of years and I've taken some time to work on myself.
Okay.
I definitely feel like I still have more work to do.
Okay.
And I've gone from, I feel like I'm kind of transitioning from, the anxious attachment style to kind of an avoidant, only because when I go on dates,
Okay.
I, I, I'm just not feeling it with these people. And I don't feel a connection with them. And it's like, I'm
So,
wondering why.
okay. So, and we're going to unpack that. This is going to be a fun conversation in a couple minutes. But why do you associate that with avoidant?
Um, oh, that's a good question. I guess because I feel like I have a wall up, I still have some pain, and
Okay.
I possibly am afraid to get close to someone,
Okay,
you know.
great. That's a very intuitive response. And for everybody who's watching, I want you to recognize that what she did was she looked, by the way, I'm talking to everyone right now, Lisa, but
Yeah.
what Lisa did is she looked inward and really reflected upon it from a very conscious place. So I have a number of thoughts in this area. Okay. So we're going to do a little bit of playing here. Okay. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Okay. So here's the thing. Okay, I talk about attachment style. I always pull up books. We talk about attachment style. And to some degree, this is in my vantage point. This isn't science like, you can check a box and know exactly what's going on. Just so you know, okay? This is a lot of field study. It's not really done in real time. My meaning, nobody's looking at your vantage point in this moment. No researcher is studying these things like what's happening to you right now. It's all based on a precept that happened from childhood and how we operate in adult life. Okay. For the most part, they're not actually looking at what happens to us in midlife after ending of relationship, ending of relationship, ending of relationship, ending of a relationship. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I'm listening to you. My phone's getting low, so I'm searching for my phone charger. So
okay, I'll keep talking while you're looking for your phone charger. Okay, so folks, what I was saying to Lisa is that, it isn't an exact science. Now, the way I interpret the way we attach to love is that we have a default of a fear of abandonment or a fear of rejection. And for some people, that fear of abandonment is radically strong, and the feel of rejection is radically strong for some people. For some people, it's kind of light, LITE, light. Okay. And so, but if you have a strong, like for me, I'm very aware I have an anxious attachment style. When someone doesn't return a text right away, I'm like, what the fuck did I do wrong? Did I make them upset? And this is true with friends. This is true with family members. It doesn't matter. I have a default that there's something wrong with me. It's a default. Now, in relationship, I've learned over a period of time to trust that it isn't about me. And this is something I have to be very present to when, I'm connecting with another human being. But it still pops up. So in other words, anxious is my default. However, if I'm with another anxious person, I can start becoming avoidant. But what's really happening is they're giving too much love and I'm having a hard time receiving love. And so to the extent that we put these labels on it, I think I want to dismantle all the labels. I don't think it's like all of a sudden you went from anxious to avoidant. I think what's really going on for you, Lisa, is you've been hurt. Okay. You've been hurt more than once. It's caused you to be like, I'm not sure I want to be vulnerable with somebody. You've got to kind of earn it. Okay. Now, part of the problem, Lisa, is our current dating environment is so fucking dysfunctional that no wonder you're operating this way. We hyper focus on entertainment, romance, and physical connection without ever really building the emotional connection.
Yeah.
And I mean the deep roots of trust. We rarely spend time in that area because we're all amped up on, testosterone and estrogen and oxytocin and dopamine and, serotonin, all of this chemical cocktail. And we bond with someone physically before we've ever built real trust, ever really built a true friendship with someone. So now, I know this sounds like, well, Jonathan, then where's the hope in all this? Okay. Well, the hope is to get really attuned to who you are and what you really want. So you said something a moment ago, and I want to dive into this. You're going out on dates and you're not feeling it. You're not feeling it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That could be a reflection of your wall. I'm going to be candid with you, Lisa. I've gone on dates with women and they're sitting right across me from the table. And I can literally visually see every man that's ever hurt them standing right behind them. Now, they're not literally there. I mean this figuratively speaking, but the way they communicate, it's literally present. Now, I'm not suggesting that of you, okay? But energetically, you openly admitted you have walls up. So the minute you have a wall up, you're going to be blocked from connecting with someone. And I want to come back to this book, If the Buddha Dated. I highly recommend reading this book. I love this book because it's about dating from your heart, not from the pretense that a man must climb to the highest room of the tallest tower to prove his worth by planning and paying for dates and doing all these things to romance you. It's about learning how to date from a heart-centered place. How can we connect with someone's heart? That's the invitation on all this. How can we really have authentic, real communication? And you know where real communication comes from? It's not all of our successes. It's our fears. It's our insecurities. It's our negative patterns. It's our limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Now, I want to share something with you. The sad reality is most human beings, even your closest friends, I mean, I'm not suggesting this of you, but just in general, we don't really connect at a real, true heart-centered level, okay? Women, tend to be more emotional communicators with their friends, but men are rarely emotional communicators. So let me just tell you this. Most men aren't really good at communicating their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions in a way that can be seen, heard, and understood. Okay. We do it through our physical actions, or it's the acts of service through physical connection. That's where men primarily operate from, but that's not all men. Okay. I'm a prime example of that. I'm just riddled with I'm all about my feelings, almost to an excess. Okay.
Yeah.
Really quickly, Julie says, I like this conversation. I relate to Lisa. Great questions. So, but now the question is, how are you going to shift? What are you going to do to shift going forward? Okay.
Okay. Now, yes, let me just give you a little more information because I would like to shift. However, I made a decision after about a year and a half, 2 years of not seeing this person, not talking to this person, and I reached out to this person. I decided, you know what, I was going on dates and not having a connection with anybody. And to be honest with you, I want to have sex. Sex. So I'm like, okay, we had, good sex life. And I thought, maybe I'll just reach out to him. I'm going to not get connected to him. And I'm just going to have a
friend with benefits.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we are right now.
Okay.
We're friends with benefits, but I know I want more than that. And I know he's not my man.
Okay.
And I know that this is just a temporary thing. So,
So temporary as in 20 years, 10 years,
no,
5 years? Like how temporary?
no, like I'm talking months. This is just a recent thing that we've reconnected.
By the way, you know, on most women's epitaph, you know, on the grave, it says, "I only was going to do friends with benefits for a month and for a couple months, but it lingered for 5 years, and I wasted all my good years with the wrong guy and never let the right guy in." Just
right,
just
and
saying,
I don't want to
saying.
be one of those. I do not want to be one of those.
Yeah, but you know what? You're like, this is where you have to, I'm going to be candid with you. It's hard to draw a line in the sand because then you're going to say, well, let's just take a break from all this. And then you're going to come back and do it again. You're going to take a break from all this and do it again. I mean, this is what typically happens. I'm just calling you out on it.
I don't know. This is the first time.
By the way, there's nothing wrong with doing this.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with doing this. Believe me. I have had plenty of friends with benefits in my lifetime. I'll own that. Okay. Not plenty, a few. And so we shouldn't judge. Like, I hope you're not judging yourself or anything like that. I doubt you are.
No.
But ultimately, I invite you to get really crystal clear on what do you want. I mean, you still have 20, 25, 30 good years left in you, you know. You're in a beautiful, attractive woman. I want you to still take advantage of all that with the right guy, you know, instead of waiting till you're 75 to meet a guy.
Right. Yeah. And I agree. And that's what this is why I'm reaching out, is because I feel like I'm not on the right path for myself, and I'm aware of it, and I'm okay with that right now, but I'm ready to let go and move forward.
Okay, couple things. First off, everybody who is watching this right now, I want you to post a comment, either in the chat box or in the comment section. What do you think Lisa should do? Okay, is that okay, Lisa? We're going to see what the audience survey says, blah, 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 blah. So if anybody says anything, and I'm going to share with you my perspective.
I can tell you what they're going to say. They're going to say, text message him and say we're done.
And by the way, and I'm not going to suggest that, okay? First off, folks, I will tell you, our physical need to want to connect with people is a very valid need. There's no judgment around that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But, you know, let's see what people say regarding this. So, Tasha says what she feels is best for her. I appreciate that. Exactly. So here's my suggestion. First off, coming back to the original question, I was anxious. Am I an avoidant now?
Yeah.
I don't think you've just automatically switched. I think your default is probably always going to be anxious, but there are circumstances when we are with somebody who is more anxious than us, it can cause us to withdraw. Now, that's not what was happening because you never got deep enough with someone to determine you were avoidant. Okay. So just so you know, you unless you dated someone for a few months after this last relationship, you really can't tell. And the strongest characteristic in my mind of an avoidant centers around the inability to open up their heart when somebody else is opening up their heart. You weren't experiencing that. You just have garden variety walls up. Garden variety walls up for understandable reasons. Most of the time you're meeting a stranger, right?
Yes.
Okay. If you weren't meeting a stranger, somebody that you felt some level of know, like, or trust, you probably would open up. So I don't think that's what's going on for you. I think you're just experiencing garden variety. Hey, I don't know you. I don't trust you. I'm not going to open my heart to you. Okay. Now, how do we get there? I'm a big proponent of personal development, self-help, spiritual work, and therapy to unpack the things that's in our lives. I invite you to do the grief letter exercise that we talked about in this video and previous videos that I've talked about, is do a grief letter exercise, you know, particularly with your marriage and this, this guy is still in your life, but you may want to explore the nooks and crannies of the pain that you experienced when he ended the relationship. There was a deep pain. And to some degree, wait, but he ended it with a text.
Yeah.
Okay. What have you guys talked about that?
No, because well, I tried to reach out to him at the time and ask him, about it. And he just could never give me a valid, good reason. It was,
well, then you know what? Before his penis ever goes inside your vagina again, he needs an explanation, okay? Like,
yeah.
And by the way, I'm going to tell you why. Okay, there's a value in doing this. Look, you can, look, it actually creates the door to intimacy. It actually, I'm not suggesting this friends with benefits is automatically going to turn into a relationship, but what you can happen is you can crack open the intimacy door to really getting into, look, you know what? Please forgive my language. I want to fuck you again, but we're going to have a conversation about something. And I want to understand from you what the fuck was really going on that you sent a text message to me, because that was fucking cruel. And I want to have sex with you, but we're going to do it. We're going to have a little nitty gritty conversation. If nothing else, you will take this experience and grow and learn from it. Yeah. And look at men are now, will he be honest with you? Hard to say. Will he be in integrity with himself? It'll be hard to say, but that's what I would invite you to do. And as far as healing going forward, healing is not a linear path. Okay. We talked about that previously. You experienced pain in your life, and I'm sure you've experienced other pain in your life that caused you to be walled up. The way to get to your heart with another human being is to lead by example, to lead with your vulnerability. It really hurt. I was in pain when you ended the relationship. It really hurt. And I need you to fucking sit in the fire right now and listen to this if you want my fucking vagina. Now, please forgive my overtly language and with expletives, but I'm trying to illustrate a point. Okay.
Yes.
And you know what? He'll probably do it because guys are horny enough to sit in the fire, Yeah. So that's my invitation for you. And I'd love to bring you back in a month or so and hear what happens. I mean, what are your thoughts on what I just shared?
No, I love it. I'm totally open to it. And I have thought about doing that. I have not done it yet. So yeah, I can give it a shot. Sure. Why not? I got nothing to lose. I'm not investing in him. So, yeah.
That's my invitation for you. And if nothing else, you're practicing heart-centered communication. You're practicing heart-centered communication from a very raw, vulnerable place. This really hurt. And you know what? I would really like to unpack this, and I need your courage. I need you to be a man and step into the fire and say, hey, let's have a real conversation about this. I'm not going to let you chicken out like a fucking pussy. Now, by the way, this is what I would say to him. I mean, if you want, I can get on the phone with him. We can have a real deep dive. Before you get my woman, my little sister, you got to jump through some hoops right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I can do this. I can do that.
Okay. All right, my dear. Well, I hope we spent the last 20 minutes unpacking this. I hope this had value for you.
It did. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right. Can I give you a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Same back.
All right. Thank you so much, Lisa. Be well. Lisa was brave to be on here today, sharing something very personal that's going to be clipped and sent out again. So, she talked about going from an anxious to avoidant. I don't believe that's what was happening, but that was a great question. And as she examined that for herself, she recognized that she has legitimate walls up. It's scary putting ourselves out there to be vulnerable to another human being. And as she shared with us this friends with benefits situation, it's kind of interesting. I think she has to put him under the microscope, and say, hey, before you get my vagina again, you're going to have to jump through some hoops. Are you willing? And by the way, I wish I could get on the phone with them to have that conversation because I think it'd be rather fun. Folks, did you find value in this conversation? I hope you did. In fact, if you did, I'd love for you to donate to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund. Hit that super sticker, that super chat in the chat box, or super thanks in the replay. If you found value in this or if you have something to share, post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, if you want me to get inside a guy's head, click the links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Hit that link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. You can get all the books I recommend all listed below. All right, I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, giving myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Barrick of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Lisa, who is on. I also want to thank Karen for the super sticker that she donated to us. Thank you so much. I want to thank Pauline and Lady Satya, and Julie and Melissa and Jen and everybody who was on live. Thanks so much. Wishing you all a super duper wonderful, fantastic day. Be well. Thanks. Bye-bye now.